There is somebody that's more dangerous than him. He's so dangerous. He's so dangerous, this person. I've mentioned him before, but we're going to go to town with this. We're going to elaborate on this. This person is so dangerous that he is such a chameleon that he changes colors so well that while he's speaking against the Torah, while he's speaking against Hashem in public, while he's speaking heretical things, he speaks in such a fashion that's confused the Orthodox community, mainly the modern Orthodox community, so much so that they are his biggest audience. They are his biggest audience. Whether it's Chabad or it's modern Orthodox, they are his biggest audience, even though he's speaking against them. He's speaking against the religious people. He's speaking against their belief system. He's speaking against God. Now you're going to say, wait a minute, but hold on a second. Why? He says that God doesn't exist? No, he says it exists. Wait, so what? He says that you shouldn't keep Shabbat? No, he says keep Shabbat. He says keep Shabbat. He says don't be a homosexual. He says. So how is he speaking against? Because he manipulates his speech in such a way to make you believe that he's saying what you want him to say, but in reality telling you that you should do it, but his way. You should believe in God, but his version of God. You should keep Shabbat, but his version of Reform Shabbat, where you drive on Shabbat and you do whatever you want on Shabbat. You learn Torah, but only the Torah that he wrote in his fake books. Now, unfortunately, this chameleon has caused more damage than probably anybody else that I've mentioned throughout the years. More than Sachs, more than Mirvis, his follower, more than Dweck, more than Drog, more than Manus Friedman, more than the most recent, the most recent two that we spoke about. Why? He's bigger than all of them. He's so big, I didn't even know he was a heretic until I investigated the issue a little deeper. I thought he was Orthodox, just didn't wear a kippah. The name? Dennis Prager. Dennis Prager, Shem Rashaim Yerkav, is one of these people that is literally cordial, nice, educated, but is making a mockery of Judaism in public. Now, a background about Dennis Prager. You can find this online. He's a very well-known person. He has literally billions of views on his videos. Initial work started with his political interest in the Soviet Jews who were not able to emigrate. And he specifically focused on social conservatism, which in many people's perspective is in line with Torah values, or at least the closest it can be. Prager and his siblings were raised in a modern Orthodox Jewish home. He attended the yeshiva of Flatbush in Brooklyn, New York. He even befriended Joseph Telushkin. He went to Brooklyn College, graduated with a major in history, and he took courses in Columbia University. He then left academia without finishing a graduate degree, which is, as a side note, very interesting because his organization is called Prager University. So the founder of a university doesn't have a degree. It's kind of a little bit of a joke. It's an oxymoron, to say the least. It's like saying the person that's the head of finance just declared bankruptcy. Or the person that is a head of education is uneducated. Or the person that's head of the ethical department lacks ethics. So the head of Prager University has no degree. He left graduate school, and he also left modern orthodoxy, becoming a new version of reform called rationalism/reform. I'm coining those names. He calls himself a rationalist, but in reality, he's a member in Reform shuls as well. One of the places that he was a member of for a long time is a Reform shul, Reform temple, called the Stephen S. Weiss Temple. So this Prager supported Jimmy Carter in 1976 U.S. presidential elections, despite the fact that Jimmy Carter is a notorious anti-Semite. In 1983, he co-wrote a book with Telushkin called Why the Jews? The Reason for Anti-Semitism, calling it that anti-Semitism is a sinister form of flattery. Things like this make it sound like, what's so wrong with this guy? What's so wrong with this guy? In 1986, he got divorced, went into therapy for a year, eventually wrote a book in 1999 called Happiness is a Serious Problem. He argued that confining sex to heterosexual marriage desexualized religion, which was a great achievement of ancient Jewish tradition that was worth fighting to maintain. In essence, he did something that is becoming normal today, which is taking the holy Torah, the divine law of the Torah, and calling it a culture, calling it something that is a custom, something that's good, but not an obligation. Culture, by the way, just so you know, in Hebrew translates to tarbut. Tarbut. You're only going to find one place in the Torah that has the word tarbut. And what's tarbut? Tarbut of the Reshaim. The culture of the Reshaim. Why? Judaism is not a culture. We have cultures within the Jewish people, but Judaism is not a culture. Calling Judaism or viewing Judaism as a culture, as a custom, or the likes is heretical to the Torah. But he says, although it's a culture, although it's not necessarily an obligation from God, at least not to his understanding, it has good things in it, like confining sex to heterosexual marriage. Like he's against gay marriage. So again, what's so bad about it? Okay, so he called it a culture, or he views it as a culture, or, what's so bad about this guy? Because, Rabotai Karim, you'll see as we go through this, you'll see that when someone has a rotten foundation, a rotten view of the foundation of Judaism, their views that are in line with the Torah are not in line with the Torah because the Torah said so. They're only in line with Torah because they agree with their conscience, they agree with their psyche, they agree with their perspective. That's it. And as soon as the Torah disagrees with their perspective, with their psyche, with their overall mentality, they simply just care less about it. They throw the Torah in the garbage, which is what happens with this guy. Although he says that he battles secularism on behalf of simple goodness, he supported women's legal access to abortion. He says it's immoral, but should be allowed to abort, even though Torah says abortion is murder. He says, no, but they should be allowed to do it. No problem. He supported and justified sex between non-married consenting men and women. Wait, the Torah says that if a man and woman are intimate, and they're Jewish people, before marriage, Torah says karet. Torah says it's karet on both of them, for multiple reasons. But Dennis Prager, no. Heterosexual marriage, that's good. Gay marriage, no good. Okay, that's in line with the Torah. But by the way, abortions, that's good. It's okay. Premarital sex, promiscuity, as long as it's consensual, that's good too. Wait. So it's like saying that Jesus is good and Moses is good. You're creating a new religion. It cannot be. Both are good unless you're creating a new religion, a new perspective. Unless your belief systems that actually agree with the Torah have nothing to do with the Torah. They have to do with just simply your own personal perspective. And this is why it was easy for him to become involved with the Stephen S. Weiss Temple, Reform Temple. In 1995, he urged conservative Jews to be open with working with conservative Christians, like the Christian Coalition. As we've talked about many times over the last year, the spiritual cancer among us, where there's Christian missionaries inside yeshivot, inside Jewish communities, inside our media, Christian missionaries that are literally and actively capturing Jewish souls and destroying them. Over 500,000 Jews have converted to Christianity. One of the pillars behind all of that is Dennis Prager, because his advocacy of it was already far back in 1990s, before it was as damaging as it is today. In 1999, he nationally syndicated a talk show on the socially and politically conservative Christian radio station KRLA in Los Angeles. Hence, we see the reason of why Dennis likes the Christians so much. Why did he tell the Jews you should work with them? Why? They are a huge market. They are a huge beneficiary, a huge supporter of all of his work. His heresy, part of it, comes from it. His lack of beliefs in the foundations of the fundamental principles of Judaism come from them. This, Rabotai, is just a scratch on the surface. How did this guy get into the modern Orthodox world? How did he get into the Chabad world? How did he get into the Orthodox world, if you will? Much of that publicity was done by a Chabad rabbi, a well-known Chabad rabbi that helped him by getting him into the community.
Chabad is 100% responsible for my entire effort on the happiness issue, because it was a dear friend, Rabbi Schwartzy in Los Angeles, where I live, many, many years ago. He was the Chabad rabbi at UCLA. And he said, Dennis, could you come and speak to the Jewish students here? A lot of them know you from radio, so we'll get a turnout. I said, Schwartzy, for you, anything. I assume you want me to speak on Judaism. He said, no, nobody will show up.
Presenting him as a Jew, presenting him as a Torah observant Jew. Even though he divorced his Jewish wife and married a woman with a questionable conversion, most likely a reform conversion, meaning that he's still Goya. Even though he openly admits that he does not listen or agree with the sages, and he says it in his lectures in modern Orthodox synagogues and universities and so on. He says he doesn't agree with a Jew having to keep Yom Tov for 2 days like the sages decreed. Doesn't agree, so he doesn't do it. He only keeps 1 day.
Reform Jews would never have me at their convention speak on why I am not liberal. But Orthodox Jews had me at their convention speak on why I'm not Orthodox, which is astonishing. Well, I believe that the oral law, Judaism consists of written law, the Torah law, and oral law, which is you'll find in the Mishnah, which is part of the Talmud. I believe that the reason it was kept oral was so that it changes.
So you don't believe those particular laws are binding?
Right, that's exactly right. I don't believe they're binding. The Torah laws I don't observe, it's because I'm lazy, not because I don't believe they should be observed. I'm a sinner, but I believe they should be observed. So it's not that I'm lazy and don't want to do an eighth day, it's that I think they're wrong. It's not comfort, it's ideological opposition.
I really am somewhat of an outlier in Jewish life, not being Orthodox and believing that the Torah is divine. Do I believe that God dictated the 5 books to Moshe? I have no position on how the Torah came about. None. It's one of my favorite lines in the Torah. This is supposed to be your reason and understanding in the eyes of the world. But it's not taught that way. I'll give you one example where I differ with, this is an example where I differ with traditional teaching. The traditional teaching is that the word chok, statute, if you will, Kimu Mishpatim, you all here know that. I'm not bringing close to Newcastle here, but you all know that. And God teaches law. Mishpat is from lishpot, to judge, judgments, if you will, ben adam lachaviro, between man and his fellow man. Chok doesn't mean a law you can't understand. The rabbis made that up. The Torah never implies that you can't understand the chok. It's completely made up in the Talmud. And I love the rabbis of the Talmud. They were giants, but they were human. The Torah is divine, the rabbis are human. It's an important thing to remember, which we don't. And I don't buy it for a second that chok means a law you can't understand.
Because he doesn't agree with them. He says, look, they debate among themselves, so I'm debating them. He put himself in the same level as Rabbi Yochanan. He put himself in the same level as Rabbi Akiva. Him, Dennis, the advocate of social conservatism. He is in the same level as Rabbi Akiva. He doesn't agree that we have to keep Yom Tov Shini. He doesn't agree that we should not drive on Shabbat. So he drives on Shabbat. He said, no, I only drive to shul. I don't drive to work. I don't work on Shabbat. I never worked on Shabbat, he says. So I'm a tzaddik. How is it tzaddik? He doesn't work on Shabbat. But he drives on Shabbat. Not understanding that it's not about working on Shabbat. Only an idiot thinks it's working on Shabbat that's the most significant. It's a melacha. Melacha are certain actions that we did in order to build the Bet HaMikdash. And a Kadosh Baruch Hu says these 39 melachot, such as lighting fire, turning on fire, writing, erasing, and so on, these things are considered the work, not work like you work on Wall Street, not work like you work on a radio, but in essence work that you're not allowed to do on Shabbat. Lighting fire is one of the main ones that everybody knows about, because it's a literal verse that says don't light fire. But then it says, no, I don't agree that driving is really relevant. Why? Because Dennis doesn't really care what the Torah says.
Let's take the laws of Sabbath to take a less controversial example. So there are certain laws of Sabbath that have been made strict over time, right? You and I disagree on the interpretation of Sabbath, for example. You'll drive on Saturdays. I won't drive on Saturdays because there's a rabbinic tradition that you don't drive on Saturdays. So
right. By the way, I don't drive. I wouldn't drive to a ball game. I don't drive shopping. I drive to a Sabbath-oriented thing.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Right.
But it is true that I think rabbinic law can change. I do believe that. As for Torah law, for example, I don't smoke my pipe or cigar, which I do every day of the week. I don't do it on Shabbat because it says do not burn a fire on the Sabbath. So I just want to make that clear. Right. I take this stuff very seriously.
He doesn't care what anybody says. He just cares what Dennis says. So he doesn't understand that every single time you press the gas pedal, you're not only lighting a fire, you're lighting thousands upon thousands of fires. Tens of thousands of fires are being lit second after second, after second, after second. And guess what? Each and every single one of those fires is an independent Torah violation. That's Isur Karet. Each one, each time a person violates Shabbat, it's a separate Karet sin. It's not like if he violated Shabbat, so might as well just violate the whole thing. No, every single time you turn on the ignition, you press the gas pedal, every single time you play with your phone, every single time you do all types of things that are forbidden on Shabbat, it's a separate karet sin that will bring the person an enormous amount of punishment in this world and the next. But Dennis doesn't care. Why? Because he wants to drive on Shabbat. He wants to drive to his Reform shul. He wants to keep Yom Tov only for one day. He wants to hang out with his Christian buddies and talk on their radios. Why? Because he gets enough support both from the Christian missionary world, literally his friends, with some of the worst missionaries on the planet Earth. Christian missionaries and even Jewish missionaries. Like this one clown, Reform Rabbi David Wolpe, that says that he doesn't believe that the Torah is from God. He doesn't believe the Torah is from God. He calls himself a rabbi. He was on the same TV show as Manis Friedman and some other clowns. He doesn't believe that Torah is from God. His perspective, right? One of the best buddies with Dennis Prager. Many Christian missionaries, best friends with Dennis Prager. Modern Orthodox, many of them best friends with Dennis Prager. Chabad, many best friends with Dennis Prager. Countless supporters. Wicked Talmidim, wicked students and followers who actually at some point worked for his organization. Asher Meza, Shem Reshaim Yirkav, also an avid follower and student of Dennis Prager, so much so he proudly admits of having a little statue of Dennis Prager on his desk, or a picture or something. A person that tells people to go against rabbis, the biggest rabbis in the world, he calls the Rabbanut, all types of names, says all types of things that are against the Torah on a regular basis, has an audience of people that are yearning for the truth, but all he gives them is shekel. That's his Talmid. That's Dennis Prager's Talmid. You see that the apple doesn't fall so far from the tree. Dennis Prager, Rabotai Karim, despite all of the horrible things that he's doing, by telling people things that are heretical to the Torah, he feels perfectly confident and comfortable writing a commentary, his own commentary on the 5 books of Moses, which he promotes endlessly. He feels perfectly confident and comfortable having videos on his website promoting God, saying that the world has to have been from God and the 10 Commandments, while he himself violates the 10 Commandments. He has all types of videos that are full of lies, literally full of lies that have been taken down by the media, by Google, by YouTube, by all types of other parties. And what does he do? He sues them. And he goes into these fake lawsuits to give himself a bigger name and a bigger stage, as if he's fighting for freedom of speech and so on, only to arrive at the actual court like an idiot without any proof to what he says. So they throw out the suit in the garbage, just like they should throw him out of all synagogues. He has all these lawsuits. So who pays for all of this? Jews. Most of the money comes from Jews and obviously Christians. But a lot of it comes from Jews, and he literally gets tens of millions of dollars, which he spends on marketing his videos. Tens of millions of dollars. As of 2018, around 40% of the annual budget of $10 million was spent on marketing. Each video is produced according to a consistent style. Videos cover topics, racism, such as racism, sexism, income inequality, gun ownership, Islam, immigration, Israel, politics, brutality, and so on and so forth. From the surface, he looks kosher, just like the pig. The pig has one of the 2 signs in order to be a kosher animal. That's Dennis Prager, Rabotai. He looks kosher, but he's 100% not kosher. But I, like all of you, have watched his videos in the past, thinking this guy is a nice Jew. It's a good example. Kiddush Hashem, you could even say. Look, he just talked about to his political friends about the 10 Commandments. Look, he just talked about God. Wow, what a Jew, what a Kiddush Hashem. This, Rabotai Karim, is one of the worst enemies of Judaism today. One of the worst enemies of Judaism today. If you can walk into a Jewish synagogue, an Orthodox synagogue, whether it's modern or Chabad or otherwise, doesn't make a difference. If you can tell a Jewish audience that driving on Shabbat is perfectly okay, that keeping Yom Tov for only 1 day against the sages is perfectly okay, that doing all types of horrible things against the Torah is perfectly okay because you think it is, Rabotai, it's a public Chilul Hashem that's feeding our community poison. much more than the Christians, much more than Dror Kasuto or Manus Friedman or Mirvis or anyone else that we've mentioned. You combine all of them into one, this guy's worse. Why? Because he looks kosher. Because he looks so kosher that you want to take him home. You want to vote for him if he ran for president. Because he doesn't say his heresy all the time. Just enough to make sure that the audience he wants to tell it to hears it. Who does he tell the most common place that he says that he doesn't keep Shabbat? He doesn't go to the Christians and tell them he doesn't keep Shabbat. He says it to the Jews. So if you have an average kid, average person, watches this guy in his modern Orthodox shul, and he says, look, I'm all over the world, I got billions of views on the internet, tens of millions of dollars expected donations this year of somewhere in the neighborhood of $25 to $30 million, publishing books, notoriety, Prager University, I made it. Right? He made it. He's everywhere. He's welcomed. He's paid and so on. But also, I drive on Shabbat. But also, I don't listen to the sages. But also, I decide that I'm going to have my own commentary. Based on my own understanding.
To her shock, I said, well, I'm a Jew, and I think you should have a Christmas tree. I love having Christmas trees in my society. It's a good thing. It's a happier place Christmas time, thanks to Christmas tree and decorations and Santa Clauses and Christmas music. It's all great.
Your average kid in today's Jewish world will learn more from him in an hour session than he will learn from his rabbi in the yeshiva over 10 years. Why? That 1 hour, or even that 5-10 minute clip, will cause more damage to that young kid or even that older person than what you can do in an average yeshiva today. Why? Because the average yeshiva today doesn't fight people like him. Doesn't tell you, don't listen to this rasha. Don't listen to this heretic. Doesn't tell you that. So you think, listen, since the local shul, the local rabbi invited him to the keilah, he must be kosher. So if he drives on Shabbat, I'm going to drive on Shabbat too. And that's what's happening today, Rabotai. These are the leaders that Am Yisrael has put amongst themselves, that Rav Wasserman is crying over. And the Gemara in Masechet Sotah, page 49b says, "En al mi lismoch el Avinu shel hashamayim." We have nothing to rely on other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu, than Hashem in heaven, our Father in heaven. Now, he continues and he brings Rabbi Yehuda Chassid. In Sefer Chasidim, Siman 209. He says, אם תראה בית כנסת או בית המקדש שנחרבו, דע שישראל היו דרים בו, דרך ביזיון או בקלות ראש. כי לא נהגו נוכרים קלות ראש או ביזיון בבית אדוני, עד שנהגו בו ישראל, שנאמר המערת פרצים הבית הזה. אחר כך והרוע כל עוברי דרך. Rabbi Yehuda Chassid brings hundreds of years ago, in his famous Sefer, that's accepted and celebrated among all of Klal Yisrael. Sefer Chasidim is not about Chasidut, like today's Chasidut, Streimel, hat. Surely they learned from it too, but Chasidut meaning to do above and beyond the law, to be a tzaddik, to be a Chasid, Chasid of Hashem. And he says, look, if you ever, we learned from our Masoret, we learned from our sages, we learned from our forefathers. If you ever see that there was a Bet Knesset, a shul, a synagogue that was destroyed, or a place of Torah that was destroyed, you should know that the Jews that were there, the Jews that were living there, were treating that synagogue, were treating that yeshiva like it's nothing. Kalut Rosh, like it's a joke, like a bar, like a social club, like a place you can invite any heretic to speak in, Christian missionaries, a Jewish missionary, all types of heretics. Yeah, just entertain the crowd. Entertain the crowd. You ever see a Bet Midrash like that was destroyed? You ever see a Bet Knesset that was destroyed? You should know, without knowing, you don't have to look at the news, you don't have to look at the archives, you don't have to look at nothing. If it was destroyed, they were bringing people like Dennis Prager and Manis Friedman and the cancer that was trying to get to Kelly, that was trying to go to the Boca Raton synagogue, and so on. That was there. That was there. How do you know? Because we have a Masoret that we learn from the prophet Jeremiah in chapter 7, verse 11. And also in the book of Psalms 80:13. What does it say? The Goyim, the Nochrim, never treat a place of holiness that's owned by Jews with desecration. They don't desecrate it, they don't ruin it until the Jews did it first. Why? They don't get the idea from heaven to go desecrate a holy shul until the Jews do it first. The Zohar Kadosh, Rabbi Ephraim brings, Parashat Truma, Daf 131, Amud Bet, writes awful things about a person that speaks in a Bet Knesset. Zohar says, in the name of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, a person that speaks in his shul mundane things, or even whatever he's speaking, in the middle of prayer, you're speaking, middle of the reading of the Torah, you're speaking, or even if you're speaking mundane things when there's nothing going on, but you're doing it in a shul. Zohar says, that person that's speaking in shul, ukofel ואין לו חלק באלוקי ישראל ומחלל שם שמיים. כשיהודי מחלל בית כנסת הוא נותן שליטה לגויים. The Zohar Kadosh says, someone that speaks in a synagogue is considered 100% a kofar, a heretic, who has no share of the God of Israel and is causing a desecration of the name of heaven. And when he desecrates that synagogue with his speaking in a shul, he is giving the power to destroy that shul to the goyim. Every Bet Knesset that has people socializing in it, if it gets destroyed, now we know why. We don't want anything to be destroyed, and the whole point of mentioning it is so people do tshuva and stop. Stop desecrating Hashem's name. Stop being heretics. But if they don't, at least we won't cry to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why'd you do it to me? We used to pray in this place. Isn't it a Bet Mikdash Katan? No. It's not a Bet Mikdash Katan if you're desecrating Hashem's name in it. You see, Rabotai Yekarim, this is our Masoret. This is our belief system. Not my unique belief system. Not my invention. This is standard. Standard, basic level of Judaism. Those who follow it will win. Those who do not will lose. In the interim, what happens to the ones that are trying to win? Rav Wasserman says, in conclusion, so long as we are guided by the misleaders who have brought us into a state of war with God, there can be no hope that our position would improve. On the contrary, it will worsen from day to day. There's only one way left for our deliverance, to make peace between ourselves and our Father in heaven, the guardian of Israel. Only then can peace be upon Israel. Countless people are petrified about what's going on in the world today, whether it be coronavirus or the cure or poison. We're not really sure which one is which. People are worried about the economic situations. People are worried about what's happening in Israel, whether it be the currency or the broken government or what's going on in the religious communities there and here and otherwise. There are so many worries on people's heads every day that no one even knows where to look at. Rav Wasserman says, so long as you allow fake leaders to run your keilot, so long as you allow fake speakers to poison your keilah, your audience, so long as you promote, advocate, and even support haters of the Torah, heretics of the Torah, misleaders like Prager, like Yafed, and like all of the other Reshaim that we've mentioned today and in the past. So long as you let them lead, don't look for any bright side. Whether it's coronavirus or Hashem Yishmor, something worse. The situation will get much worse. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't send coronavirus in order for us to find a cure. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent us coronavirus in order for us to follow Him, to do tshuva, to fix our situation in our community, in our synagogue, in our homes, to fix our belief system, to fix our relationship with Him. By first starting out, kicking out all of those that lie about Him, all of those that misrepresent Him, all of those that go against Him, all of those that misspeak about Him, all of those haters of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this coronavirus, this bilbul, this confusion that's in the world, can only be solved by getting rid of the trash that we have inside each one of our communities. Whether it's here in Florida, New York, Los Angeles, Israel, wherever. As long as we have false leaders leading us, false leaders that we praise, false leaders that we follow, where their focus is more on money, reputation, views, all of that other garbage, as long as we have them, as long as we support them, as long as we donate to them, as long as we watch their videos, as long as we do anything to keep them at peace, don't expect anything to improve. Stop praying for it even. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu already gave you the solution. You don't need to pray. You don't need to cry to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please take coronavirus away. You don't need to do it. Oh, please Hashem, make this vaccine, go away. Make sure it's not going to be a law. Make sure it is a law. Make sure everybody takes it. Make sure everybody doesn't take it. Make sure that, forget about all this stuff. Everybody that's focusing on the coronavirus, the cure, the reptiles behind it, the billionaires behind it, promoting it, the president, his friend. You're missing the point. You're missing the point of the times. HaKadosh Baruch Hu only wants us to fix our relationship with Him. When we fix our relationship with Him, He will fix the world. Simply take all of the things that are causing us harm, gone. If we don't fix it, and we continue following the media, we continue following the fakers, we continue following the liars, we continue following all of the people that care less about anything but themselves, the situation is going to get worse. The virus, you found a cure, so he'll mutate to 15 other worse viruses. And if it doesn't mutate, then most likely the cure is probably not a cure, it's most likely a poison. And the people behind it will just get more powerful to make the damage that Hashem is going to allow them to do even worse. You can worry about them. You can worry about a virus. You can worry about a cure. You can worry about the media. You can worry about all these things. You can watch videos about it until you're blue in the face. Or you could start becoming one of the people that starts solving the problem by doing tshuva. You do tshuva, you are good enough, you are big enough for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to fix this whole virus off of. You think that I'm telling everybody needs to do tshuva. They should, but not everybody needs to do tshuva. Why? Gemara, Masechet Yoma, page 85a, says, Gdolat tshuva. Tshuva is so big that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bring a cure to a disease that was unfounded anywhere, just for the sake of that one person. And the Mefarshim say, the commentaries say, what kind of tshuva does he have to do? Does he have to be like Rabbi Akiva, get to the 50th level of Kedusha, have 24,000 students? Does he have to be like Moshe Rabbeinu, Isha Elokim, go up to Shamayim 40 days, 40 nights? Does he have to be like Avraham Avinu, that Ani Afel Ve'efer has humility where he views himself as dust? Gemara says no. What kind of tshuva? This is specifically talking about tshuva from Yirat Shamayim, fear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You yourself that's watching this, you do tshuva, you are enough of a reason for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to fix everything. Now guess what? You do it, you can help somebody else do it. Somebody else does it, they can help somebody else do it. Before you know it, a whole community has changed. Before you know it, a whole nation has changed. Rather than focusing on cures and poisons and the people behind it and the people that follow it and people that are making money off it, let's just follow what Torah says. Why? That's our masoret. That's our heritage. That's our Torah. Our Gemara specifically says, you want a cure that hasn't been found, you don't need to go to the diagnostician. You don't need to go to the pharmacist. You don't need to go to the biochemical companies, to the pharmaceutical companies, to the government. You don't need to go anywhere. You need to go to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm sorry I violated Shabbat. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm sorry I wasted seed. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm sorry I didn't learn enough Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm sorry I wasted my time watching YouTube videos about cats crossing the street instead of watching rabbis speak Torah, Torah tenet. I'm sorry, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm sorry, and I promise you, I'm going to start doing better. That is enough for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to change the world. You, by yourself, can change the world. And if you do it, you can influence somebody else next to you. Somebody else does it, they can influence somebody else next to them. Each one of us, literally, by ourselves, our tshuva can be enough of a reason for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to bring a cure. Not just to Corona, but to everything that's going on in the world. To everything that's going on in the world. That's the whole message. Why? That's our masoret. That's our heritage. If you believe it, do it. Do it. Start keeping Shabbat. Start protecting your brit. Start publicizing Torah. Start doing good things, according to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Don't be like the heretics, the misleaders, that are telling people that they could translate and interpret Torah to their likings. Follow the Masoret. Follow what is giving us the power and the right to exist for thousands of years. Follow it. And I promise you, in the name of the Torah, you can bring the cure. Why? It's in our Torah. It's in our Gemara. It says so. I saw it with my own eyes. And you could too. I give you the page. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen. Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach. Rabotei Gedolim, introducing the new Be'ezrat Hashem lecture center. We, Baruch Hashem, are here in Cooper City, Florida, on Sterling Avenue. We have, in the same shopping center, we have a major kosher supermarket, lots of Jews out here. Initially, we're going to start off this place next month with the place where we're going to do our weekly shiurim 3 times a week. And as the crowd grows, maybe we'll add some more shiurim in Hebrew as well. Initially, it's going to be for men and women in English, and then later on, we'll do some other things. Later on, we're going to need to transform this place also into a synagogue. But as you can see, the walls are empty. We need an enormous amount of books. We need a Sefer Torah. We need an Aron Kodesh. We need a mechitza. We need a bima. We need all the holy things that you need for a synagogue. Now, throughout the years, we've been very generous to other people who donated to Torah, who donated money to different synagogues, and I'm sure that Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to send us the right people to donate all of these things to our organization, because all we want to do is spread Torah to the world. So anyone that is serious and looking to make a major contribution to our organization, whether it be the Sefer Torah, or the Aron HaKodesh, or the Mechitza, please contact us, or simply go to our website, be'ezrat hashem.org, and may Hashem continue to bless you.